Hi guys, what's up? This is gonna be my first long YouTube video. Everything else has been shorts. Today what we're doing is we're setting up the new brooder because we just got new meat birds coming in. What we're using here is actually a fruit basket that they use for commercial orange picking and stuff like that. We're gonna put a new cover on it. We're gonna put a lid on it because before, when I used it, I just kind of slapped something on top. Really liked the way it worked. It needed a couple changes, so we're gonna bring you along the way. Helping me on this project, I just got this guy over here. Basically, what we're gonna do, we're gonna slap that on there, get it nice and tight. Then we got this lid from the other brooder that we used in the past, which worked well. The problem was it was so deep, I couldn't actually catch birds. I had to chase them around. It was too big. When you get meat birds at 3 weeks, they're still fairly athletic. So this should help me catch them easier, and it should help brooding along the way. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here. We're going to put this first piece on. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover the holes. This is just some mesh fabric. We like to use it for different things. It's shade sale. You could buy it at Lowe's, Home Depot. But it actually works pretty good as a windbreak. I still want some sort of breeze coming in here, but not enough that it's actually going to affect any of the temperatures that are going on in there. Actually just using a staple gun. This plastic's relatively soft and it bites right in there. So all I'm going to do, just put it in like that. Now the majority of this stuff, actually I think all the stuff that I have here is stuff we already had here on the farm. One big thing about farming, and I don't have to tell a lot of people who have done it before, is that saving money is super important, because you never know what's going to happen with your crop or your flock or whatever it may be. So we try to save it where we can, use it more wisely. So that's why we reuse a lot of stuff. Now I'm going to trim off all of this back spot over here, because I could use it for something else. Probably this other one that's right next to me that I'm going to use later. This surprisingly works a lot better than I expected, this staple gun on this plastic. But I figured it would work. Hey guy, could you hand me the scissors real quick? Thank you. We got the shade cloth put on, which is not only good for shade, but it's also good for blocking a stiff breeze. Stiff breezes in here are detrimental to a flock of young birds, because it gives them pneumonia. It will eventually kill them. Right now, they got to be very warm. Fortunately, we live down here so deep in South Texas that warmth really isn't an issue. We are expecting a couple cold fronts in their first 3 weeks, so we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we get it all covered up and get it ready to get warm. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the wood on top and put the lid on, and we should be good to go. Okay, so first things first, I want to get this put on here so we can get our measurements right. Remember, this is all scrap wood that we've used on other projects, and I just so happened to find 2 pieces of wood that are just about the exact right size that I'm looking for. I'm gonna leave this overhang just because there may come a time where I end up reusing this, and I'm just literally gonna drill it straight into this fruit basket. I think it's gonna work just fine, but if we decide in the future that we want to do something else, or I want to reuse this board, then we're gonna go ahead and do it. Now, what we're going to end up doing is only putting a few screws in. These are exterior screws. They're about 1 5/8 inches, I think they are. Phillips head on these. Typically I like to use T25s, just personal preference. Now when you put screws in wood, especially wood that's facing up towards the sky, you want to make sure that the head of your screw is flush with the wood. I learned that from an old guy one time. He yelled at me so bad. He was like, you don't sink that screw all the way in there because then the water will pool on top, which makes sense. The water will pool on top and actually cause the screw to rust out quicker, even if it's outdoor rated screw. So uh, things like that I always remember. Another time I got yelled at for throwing a tape measure wrong, which little did I know, coming from an old school union carpenter, is actually one of those things that you can do. Now, we're going to go ahead and put the hinge on. This really should be a quick, simple project. We're basically through with everything that we need to do. What I'm using here, thanks to my lovely assistant, is I pulled this old hinge off of my small coop back when I was still experimenting with everything. It's a self-closing hinge. Now the door is just going down, so it's not that big of a deal realistically. But I like the idea of thinking that, if a raccoon or something tries to get in here for any reason at all, like eating baby meat birds, that they're going to have a hard time with it. I'm not exactly sure if they would or not, but I'd like to think a raccoon crawling in here might get hit like a big giant mouse trap. It might not kill him. It might not even hurt him all that much, but it helps me sleep better at night. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to put a single one on here because I only have one board that's actually 2x4 that's permanently attached. That's attached really well in here. Everything else is kind of loose. This guy here and I like to joke around that the hardest thing to do on any project is a door, but I'm telling you right now, this is the easiest door I've ever done. Now look, there's a bunch of people out there who think that everything should be beautiful and perfect. Me personally, I think something that's, something you take pride in, that you built, it may not be the most perfect thing ever. It may not be, in the eyes of a carpenter, very good. I'm not a carpenter. I'm actually an electrician by trade, so anybody who's watching who's in the trades knows that us electricians aren't very good carpenters. So anyways, let's see how that worked. Should work fine. I hit that 2x4 right in the middle with a longer screw. I'm gonna move some of these screws out of the way. Oh, and I'm not kidding when I talk about we reuse everything. Those screws are red, just like that hinge. Now look at that. It's all right. It twists a little, but you know what? I think it'll hold birds in pretty well. Particularly these little meat birds. They don't really go airborne a whole lot. They're only going to be in here for about 2 weeks. I know a lot of people keep them for 3. And I guess when the time comes, it'll be up to the weather as to if they stay in a little bit longer or not. This little piece right here doesn't bother me a whole lot. And it snaps right down. So that should be pretty good. Next, what we're going to do is we're just going to install a little stick here on the side. It's going to actually hold it up so I don't get this thing snapped on my head when I'm trying to put water and feed in them. So if this guy over here would just hand me my stick. Oddly enough, this is another stick that I perfectly well built for this project because of another project. This used to hold up my egg door on my little tiny coop. I got a hole set perfectly here. All I do whenever I do this is use a longer screw and I will just screw it in. Hey guy, would you help me out over here and just hold this door up as I do this? You know, it wiggles a little bit, not too big a deal. Like I said, not everything has to be perfect all the time. Ultimately, the idea is it keeps them locked in, keeps them safe. That's what matters at the end of the day. Ideally, if I did this full time, I would have like the perfect setup on everything. But as you can see right there, that works just fine. Drop it down. It actually doesn't drop all the way in the cage. And now, boom, there we go. We got the brooder set up. And yeah, now I'm just going to talk about why I do the brooder the way that I do. But first, I'm going to move the camera angle over here so we can talk about the bedding and everything like that. All right, so uh, just wrapping up. You know, I'm going to put some lights and stuff in here. I try to keep that until just before I put them in. Light placement, water placement, stuff like that. What I try to do, and what anybody should try to do, in my opinion, is keep the heat lamp away from the water. They're not going to be in this climate. They're not going to be like freezing or anything straight out of the gate. We live deep South Texas, and we're talking right now it's probably 84, 85. So one heat lamp for this would work really well. That's actually why I leave some of the front open just for a little breeze in case they get overheated. I actually try to put the heat lamp over here by this area. As you can see, we got all this put in. You know, it's going to block 3 of the 4 sides, so it should do a pretty good job. Wanted to talk about the bedding method that we use. We use a deep bedding method. A lot of the guys that you'll see on YouTube use a deep bedding method. What I did was I actually converted over to the McCoy's bedding. It's a lot more fine. See, you get Tractor Supply bedding, and I'm sure they have a fine one, but mine doesn't seem to carry it. It's a lot bigger pieces. I'm really interested to see how the fine flakes are going to do. I think they're going to push down a lot more because in the deep bedding method, what the problem is, you start getting it pushed down, but then the top layer just gets nasty. There's nothing going down deeper if you put it too deep. When I started it the first time, I put in a full bag just to get it really deep. And then as we get more, I actually mix it in. Joe Salatin has it in one of his books. I think it's Poultry Profits. I don't know if it's a book or a YouTube video. I'd have to look into it. Where he talks about deep bedding. See, this is like dirty. It's used, but it has like an earthy smell. And actually, before I put this bedding in and I mix it up, I realized that I actually had black soldier fly larvae starting to grow in here, which is good for birds. But meat birds in particular are more about feed. Laying hens love the bugs. They love foraging. Uh, you know, we put our meat birds on pasture, and I noticed they eat grass, and I figured out a way to train them. And I'll probably talk more about that in the future. One way that I train them, just a brief little piece, is I'll actually withhold feed for a little bit after they go in, and a little bit for a meat bird is a long time. So I'll talk about that once we get this group that's coming in into pasture. We'll make a video on that. I'll show you the way we do it. Follow a lot of the Salatin style, but we have to change up a lot of things because of how deep in South Texas we are and how hot it is year round, which is actually great for production. I know a lot of people right now are putting up their chicken tractors and stuff coming into winter, but this is when it really ramps up for us, just because it gets cool. It gets really cool. I've got some plans coming up in the future for summer. I think are going to work out pretty good. Talking about feed conversions and stuff like that. I've got some ideas of how to produce chicken year round without stopping. You know, these Cornish cross, they don't do good in the heat that we have down here. So I've got some ideas that are gonna be really beneficial to us. But yeah, no, I just wanted to come in, finalize everything, show you guys what it looks like to be a chicken inside of a coop. This is what it looks like when somebody's looking at you and it's time to feed. Um, and yeah, no, we're just going to close off the video. And everybody, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I hope you enjoy these videos. If there's anything you want to see um, changed about my videos, just let me know in the comments. I'm open to constructive criticism. This is my first one. Um, I'm hoping it goes well. I'm hoping I don't just scrap the whole thing because I hate the way it looks. I'm trying to be a little bit less hard on myself when it comes to something like this. So hopefully everybody likes it, and hopefully we'll see y'all in the future. Anyways, thank you guys very much. This is Mike with G93 Farms, and I hope to see you around. And I'm going to say it one more time. Have a great rest of your day. Maggie. Get out of the frame on that one.